Well, good morning, everyone. And wait a minute, Bronie hasn't set this up properly. But anyway, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another day here in Bronie's world. And we have the amazing Richard Renton, Dr. Dirt, as we call him, with us all the way from Oregon. Do you know, I didn't tell you this before, Richard, but we had, when I was growing up on the farm, we had two exchange students at different times, obviously, a few years apart, and they were both from Oregon.
Oh,
Portland,
well,
Oregon.
technically, I'm in Washington, but Portland is probably 20 minutes away.
Oh, well, there you go. Just a little bit of a trivia thing. That's how I kind of remember where you are, kind of. Well, I didn't know you were
Across the river and you're in it.
Oh, well, there you go. All right. Well, guys, we are so glad to have Richard back again with us today. Now, we were just discussing here before I pressed the record button that this time last year, when I first had Richard on, it was in May. It was our 15th. Or 16th of May. It was early May.
You're 14th, my 13th.
Okay, my 14th, his 13th. And it was actually Richard's 70th birthday. So in 15 days, so not so many days away, he is going to be 71. And we thought that was pretty awesome. And then he reminded us that the company that we both get our supplements from, Youngevity, is turning 30. So I'm asked, well, Richard is going to talk a little bit about that because he was there from the beginning. And we're going to talk about coffee if we have time and digestive enzymes. So with no further ado, Richard, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you for coming to share with us here down under.
So I'm going to hold this in front of me. So I have my not Starbucks coffee, but I have my coffee in my Australia coffee cup for you guys. So we have that there, and you see me grab that. So, I want to say 30 years ago and 3 months, we were Steve Wallach and Michelle Wallach and Roxanne and I and Dr. Milan and Dr. Wallach were active with another company. And Doc actually was doing the same thing that Doc always did. He was out doing lectures. And with the signups and the people that were having his meetings, he had about 65% of that company underneath him. Well, and he was earning, 7 digits, right? A month, practically. And so the company decided the owners, which he actually technically was, but he didn't have controlling interest, decided that they were going to get rid of Doc so that they wouldn't have to pay him the commissions. Wow. And so they fired Doc and Milan, and then they fired Steve and Michelle, and then they fired Roxanne and I. They fired me because I owned Willamette Valley at that time, and they said it was a competitive product, even though Doc asked us to start it because the previous company wouldn't make some of the products that Doc wanted. And so I filled that gap, but it became a mess, right? And so Doc says, fine, we're all fired. What are we going to do? I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing in lecturing, even though I don't have any products anymore. Steve and Michelle, I want you guys to move down here to California and open up the corporation, find the employees, find the multi-level marketing that we're going to do, find all the legal stuff we're going to do, set up the warehouse and all that. And Richard, you go out and you find the raw materials that we want to use, the vendors we want to use, and design the first 12, 14 products that we have. And that was about December of 95. And in 3 months, we pretty well had everything set up to the point where we were starting to order products. And on May 15th is when we started to ship these products. So it took us 5 months to get the company together from when we were terminated. Now, I should tell you, that is lightning fast. It's unbelievable fast. And the thing that was funny was Doc was out there lecturing, and he didn't have any products, but he still did the Dead Doctors Don't Lie where he overcame the objections and beat up the medical system and beat up insurance and all that, and said, you just need to get the 90 essential nutrients. And we don't have them right now, but we're going to have them in back then he was saying end of April. And what I want you guys to do is put your orders in for what you want. We're just going to call them liquid multivitamins, liquid minerals, and other stuff. And when we get the product in, we'll contact you, get your order, and get it shipped to you. And you can buy your books and tapes now. And that's literally how it all started and all that. And of course, there was always lawsuits involved because the other company thought we weren't, we were stealing their distributors, but technically they were Doc's downline in the first place. And we turned around and sued them for wrongful termination. And it was, in the United States, you could take things to court unless you're in your agreement, your rules, you say arbitration. And in our case, we were in arbitration, and we actually won arbitration. But since we started Youngevity so quickly, the judge didn't want to give us, or the hearings officer wouldn't give us any damages because we got it going too quick. If it would have taken us 5 years to get it going, then he probably would have given us 5 years worth of income. But that wasn't the case. We got it going. So, but we did bankrupt that company, and then it became one of the first companies with us. And that's where Ultra Body Toddy came from, and Cal Toddy came from, and some other products that we have that are out there that are under what's called the Super Life label. And so that's how that company. And so technically our birthday on the countdown clock is 17 days, 15 hours, 17 minutes, and 50 seconds. So happy birthday, Youngevity. Give you a little history lesson how it all started, and everything that we kind of went through in the first couple days or first couple months and how chaotic it really was. And it was fun. In looking back, I probably would have moved down to San Diego with Steve and Michelle and been down there. But Roxanne had a grandson. At that time, he would have been 2. And she says, you can move down, but I'm not going to. And so that kind of told me I was going to stay up in Portland area and keep working with the company. So there we go with that. So we had some questions, and I'm glad we had questions, and we're going to record them. And one of the questions is a person had a situation where she was taking some digestive enzymes and she felt some redness in her cheeks. And was that caused by the enzymes? So a couple scenarios. Niacin flushes often cause your cheeks to turn red, and it goes away. And it's when you start to take a large increase in niacin, which is a member of the B family, and that's very common. The other way is with a digestive enzyme is if you break the capsule in your mouth and allow the enzymes to attack the inside lining of your skin, it can give you a little reaction there. Otherwise, it's probably the food that's causing the redness and not the digestive enzymes. So in Australia, you guys have 3 digestive products. You have Ultimate Enzyme, which is the one I designed. It was one of the ones I designed 30 years ago. You have Nightly Essence, which is a more complex, unusual, in other words, different enzymes that do different functions in your body. Everyone understands that. Digestive enzymes are focused on a breakdown of proteins and fats in your body, and is good when you eat food. You should take it just prior or at the beginning of your meal is when you should take them. Nightly Essence are more essence that works, or enzymes that work in your bloodstream and whatnot, and they're focused, and they're different enzymes, and they're focused to work more when you're asleep, because that's when those functions occur more often in your scenario. So that's why we have you take Nightly Essence. The other one is True Enzymes, which is another digestive enzyme, very much like Ultimate Enzymes that you can take. Let me go to my cheat notes a little bit. True Enzymes costs a little bit more. I think there's a little more enzyme activity, but the value of $36.19 is not bad for a good digestive enzymes. I will say it has ox bile in it. The ox bile is in it to help break down the certain fats and proteins in your body, but that means it's not really designed for vegetarians. And so keep that in mind. And I occasionally will get an email saying, why don't you come out with a different one? And I guess once Steve gets enough people to do that, we'll get that. Oh, we got someone new joining us. Hi, Yvonne. And so we'll go with that. And so that's the possibilities of the digestive enzymes and what's available for you in Australia. There's probably a couple more here in the States that we could take advantage of. But we want to make sure that we take care of our customers and give them feedbacks. I'll lay a bet was more of a food allergy or a niacin, because eating enzymes in your mouth from any company is actually could be harmful. And so you want to swallow those pills and let them get down into the acid of your stomach. Okay. So I'm going to click out of that window. And so last month was a fun call.
Wasn't it just?
And I'll say in general is that it's happened in the States quite a bit. My Monday night call, it's after this one by a little bit. Same thing happened, and we just ended the call. Stay Natural with Stan Dennison and Dr. Laura. It's happened to them. It also has happened to some of the Texas distributors, and I even believe Cheryl Morley's call got hacked. So we've gone into this system where we try to improve things and be able to invite people to join us. And we want you to enjoy us. We want to have interactions with you. We just want to have it in a polite, humane, human decency situation. And so the rule of thumb in the States is when someone hacks in and starts to do unfavorable gestures that we just end the call. And try to figure out who it is that we can do it. On my particular call, they came on naked. So, you had some verbal discussions. I think that was better than what we had to do with. But during that call, I was asked to talk about coffee. And so there again, it's one of those stories where it was an acquisition with Youngevity, is we actually purchased a company, controlling interest in a company. It was actually publicly traded in the United States, and we owned the plantation. We owned the facility that did the drying and the sorting. We owned the roaster, which was in Florida, and we had distribution throughout the United States. Our biggest companies were cruise ships because it was in Miami, and all the cruise ships going to the Caribbean was buying our coffee. And so we did that. But we started a trade on NASDAQ, which is a high tier stock exchange over here in the States. It's the second largest. And the higher you go up in our system, I'm sure it's the same in Australia, the more rules they have. And we were struggling obeying all their rules because where the plantation was, the accounting system was not good. And we couldn't show all the money the way that the NASDAQ wanted to, so they asked us to step away from that, and we did. And we eventually separated the coffee company out of the United States. We still get a couple products from them, but not as many as we used to. You guys have the Taza products in two different styles, in a latte and a regular. And what makes that special is that it's coffee with mushrooms in it. Especially lion's mane. And so it is a antifungal. It's because I don't know why mushrooms kill fungus, but they do. But it also supports your immune system absolutely like crazy. And it comes in two scenarios. One, it tastes like black coffee with a little bit of mushrooms. And that's all the crave in the United States. All the big coffee, and we've been doing it for years now. All the big companies are coming out with mushroom coffees, and we've had it for years because, I don't know, maybe they're just copying us. I don't know. But the main mushroom in it is mushroom mane, and it comes, and then the other one is more like a latte. So it has a little bit of a cream flavored in it. Both are available over to you. The one without the cream flavor is called Classic. The other one's called Latte Plus, and it's there. And I just want to say, if you look at the system, it's Main function is the mushrooms, but for which are primarily designed to support the digestive system as well as the immune system. The main mushroom is lion's mane, but I believe there's about 5 in there, and I'm trying to cheat and cursor down and find if I can find all 5 mushrooms. Royal sun, lion manes, rashidi, white fungi, can't remember how to pronounce the word, Miatake mushrooms, cordyceps, and turkey tail. I like turkey tail mushrooms. So it's a blend of all those are in there, great at supporting your immune system. You know, there's lots of studies out there that drinking a cup or so of coffee, unless they're like mine, because I'll hold my 2 fingers out. You can see this is a rather large mug.
It's the only way to have it.
You know, my father always told me, if you're going to be a Scotch drinker, learn to drink 2 fingers, right? So, you know, drinking a little bit of coffee is actually good for you. But like with just about anything, too much is not a good thing. Too little is not a good thing. So a happy medium. So, you know, I have my 1 cup of coffee a day that I take and enjoy. And then from there, I switch over to the BTT. And then I have a test product that we're going to come out with that I'm putting in my BTT, which you guys are going to get soon. Are you going to have Steve on in the next month or so?
We have Sanjeev's and Cheryl Morley and Annalise Brown coming down in June, and they said they're bringing something special. So maybe that's what it is. Right?
Could be.
Could be.
Because it's ordered. It's supposed to arrive any day now.
Everyone else getting everything, but...
All right. If I say this word, you didn't hear it from me, right? No one heard this from me. Everyone shake their head. They didn't hear it from me. Creatine.
Oh, yes. We've been asking for that.
So we're working on that. It's ordered. It should show up. Steve's been working on it for about 2 years now. So I'm excited with that. But I have some samples, so I'm putting it in my coffee because you can mix. It's almost absolutely tasteless. So my coffee I'll put, or my BTT, I'll put creatine, I'll put I-26 in all of them. And so do like that. And then I put some seeds in my other drink, typically in the day, just to get me more fiber, because, you know, I'm turning 71, more fiber. But anyways, we do that too. So, because I got to be here to be 100, so I can bug you guys for another 30 years or so.
Well, that's the plan, isn't it?
That's the plan. So anyway, is there any questions about the coffee that anybody had, or want me to go a little bit more on that? We used to have more coffees. We used to have holiday coffees and things like that. Michelle might bring something in for Christmas, ho, ho, ho type coffee. But as far as what we used to have in the old days and the K cups and all that, we don't, to the best of my knowledge, it'd be a seasonal or a specialty thing at this point.
We couldn't get the K cups down here in Australia because our machines are slightly different and they didn't fit them. So we never had that privilege, which was annoying because, you know, I have a lot of people who have the ones that take those little cups, and that would have been nice. But anyway.
So do you have one? Do they have a device down there that it's the right shape and you can pour your own ground coffees in it? It's a filter and you can put it in your K cup type machine.
I actually don't know. I'll have to ask my daughter because she has a machine. Yeah, she may not know.
That was the cheat around here because K cup. So Green Mountain is the big coffee distributor in the United States of raw beans. They control 70-something% of the market. Everyone has to buy from them. They also own K Cup, and they also own the machine to put the K Cups, the rights to it. Except the machine isn't made by them because they don't know how to do it. They have a machine in Italy, a company in Italy make the machine. So they had purchased a machine from this Italy company in 2 or 3 years, and Steve found out who it was and said, we want to buy a machine. And they said, okay, but it's $1 million and you have to pay us up front and da-da-da-da-da. And Steve did that because we really thought that the K Cup was a good idea, especially if we're going to do it. What Green Mountain would do is put their scraps in K Cups. Okay. And it's really the bottom of the bag instead of bottom of the barrel, bottom of the bag quality coffee. And we were going to put our best coffees in it and make it available and still be cheaper than most of the K-Cups. And then all of a sudden, it had been a year, and Steve called up and says, where do we schedule the pickup for the machine and all that? And, to have it shipped over to the United States, to Miami, to where the roaster is. And they go, well, we got a letter from Green Mountain saying we couldn't sell it to you. And Steve went, what? And he says, I can guarantee two things. And he goes, well, what's that? And I says, Green Mountain isn't going to buy a machine from you for a while. You have my $1 million. I'm going to sue you for not only the $1 million, but the loss of revenue if you don't send that machine over because you failed to tell us. And so we end up getting a K-Cup machine. So we're probably the only company, or at least the coffee company that is over in Miami is probably the only coffee company that actually has a K-Cup machine that isn't a Green Mountain product. And so getting K-Cups from us, if you ever get a chance to do, because it'll be a better quality of coffee. So there's a story behind that.
Well, there you go. That's actually quite an interesting story. And it's amazing to me, and I think to a lot of other people, the lengths that Steve and Michelle go to bring us quality. And, sort of like, who wants to eat the dregs, the rubbish part of a coffee? If you're going to have a coffee, it's got to be a good one.
On their side of the picture, if you have your grade A beans and grade B all the way grounded to grade D, and you can figure out a way to sell your grade D for grade A prices, it's a pretty smart business decision, isn't it?
Well,
so you create you create a special coffee maker that can sell only a special cup, and then you put that coffee in there, and you've just increased your own margins in supply and demand. I can't blame them for doing it.
No, but it just shows the ethics that Steve and Michelle have, that Youngevity have.
Yes.
And
so
it's always my point. You can get cheaper supplements somewhere else if you want, but you won't get the quality and you won't get the ethical side of it. In my opinion.
Very good correlation. Hey, I was also told that you have double points on Bloomin Minerals. My next call, we're going to talk about how to take care of your tomatoes using Bloomin Minerals and get the great harvest and whatnot. And unfortunately, you guys are in the Southern Hemisphere and I'm in the Northern Hemisphere, so we're kind of flip-flopping seasons. But I will tell you that it's coming close to the point where you're going to put your bed, your growing beds to sleep for the winter. And one of the things, once you clean out all the stuff you need to clean out, you need to put another layer of the Bloomin Minerals in there, incorporate in the soil. And then if you get a lot of moisture, but still a fair amount of heat, if you cover it with plastic or bed cloth and let it bake in, it just enriches your soil, because the goal of your soil, if you can't go through your bed where you grow and pull out worms, you don't have healthy soil. No. And so you just want to work to get healthy soil. And so putting the Bloomin Minerals in at wintertime and then again in the spring, when just before you plant, makes all the difference in the world on the quality of your products. And the other side that I was going to say, talking about is that there's some things that people traditionally do with tomatoes, or they don't do. So I'm going to call it kind of the 4 common mistakes. The first one is once you plant and you'll have main branches come out and they'll leaf out, and then they get little branches underneath them. You really don't want those little branches underneath that first canopy. So you take those away. And then, but if you plan to repot them, in other words, if you start it in a starting pot and then you carry it over to your bed, if you take those little leaves away, you want your plant to heal for 4 to 5 days before you transfer them into the new pot. And then you always want, you still want there's a lot of stuff on the internet that says you trim everything except for your main stock. And that's true if you're in a hot house with a controlled environment and you're trying to do that yield thing and you're going to go up 8, 12 feet and do all that. Most homes don't do that. You know, you have little 2-meter plants is a big plant for you guys. And so you don't break off all those stalks. You want to have all those flowers. So all those flowers are representing a branch that will have tomatoes on it. And so you want to do that. But you want to keep the lowest level below that first level of branches. You want to keep that cleared out because you want air to circulate around that bed, right? So pruning, that's one. The second one is that with tomatoes, you have to make sure that you fertilize them correctly, especially if you have raised beds, because the tomato will take plants, but it really doesn't take it takes more than it gives, where if it's in a field, then it's the other way around because there's so much there. So you should give your tomatoes nutrients, not only blooming mineral, but a fertilizer. We call it 555N, but it's a phosphorus fertilizer. You should get it every 2 weeks. And it's about you guys, what's a tablespoon and a half in metric?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea.
Do you have tablespoons on your cooking?
Yeah.
We understand tablespoon.
Tablespoon and a half per plant of that fertilizer, and a little bit of liquid fish fertilizer. And in that one, you put a half a teaspoon in type bone meal in 2 gallons of water. And then when you water your plant, you do that. You do that every 2 weeks. And if you do that, your yield should triple.
Wow.
So there's that. So proper fertilization. Don't over prune. We already did that one. And then when to plant and when to protect. So tomatoes and strawberries were always ground vegetables. And actually, if you go to Central America where tomatoes in South America where it all started, they're usually underneath trees. You're always told direct sunlight, and that's really not the case. You can burn your tomatoes, and that's because it's getting too much at too high of a temperature. And so you want to plant your seed as early in the spring as long as you know there isn't going to be another freeze, because you want that flowering to occur before it gets hot. So if you can get your first flowering in before it gets 12, 13, 14, 15, you're doing better. And then if it's 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what, 22 Celsius, you want to shade them somehow. And you can get shade cloth really inexpensive, and you actually put them in the shade. And if it gets really hot, you can get a little fan out there and blow the fan and keep the air moving around there. And when you do that, you won't burn your tomatoes, because if you like those big juicy tomatoes, they burn. They get a sunburn, and then they're trash. And so there's some hints there with the shade cloth. Don't over prune. Blooming minerals, additional, and then plant at the right time. As soon as your freezes are over and your soil starts to warm up, and before it gets hot. You have to hit that window because you want it flowering before it gets hot.
Oh, that's really good information.
Except I'm going to have to repeat it in 6 months.
Well, yes and no, but that's all right. People have forgotten by 6 months. But I'm glad you actually did mention that, because this is the time we, rest our soil, but we prepare it ready for spring. And I don't know about everyone else, but I mean, there's a lot of things I do know, but I hadn't thought of getting that bloomin' minerals into the soil now and how to care for that over the winter so that it actually gets the goodness that our soil needs to grow.
Yeah, because when we did that research in Japan 20 years ago, and they rate their strawberries from, I guess, 1 to 10. And farms in Japan are little tiny things. They just compared to what we have. And he was getting an 8, which is kind of a so-so strawberry. And he barely could get enough money to feed his family. Mm. And we came over in early spring, and he was desperate. He would do anything we told him to do. So we took half his crop, half his field, and we just put a layer of Bloomin Minerals on that one. And he went from a 8 to a 2, which is second to the highest score you could have in just one cycle. Not even a full cycle, a half cycle.
Oh, so
then when he was done with this, one's the top. So when he was done with his strawberries, we put another on. When he planted his strawberries, he put another one on. The following year, he got a 1.
Wow.
And made a difference, so much so where he didn't want us to tell anybody, because he didn't want his neighbors to get it, because they were all asking what he'd do to make the difference, because the density of the strawberry, if you get a hothouse strawberry, how it's hollow in the middle. Yeah. Do you have that problem in Australia? Yeah, you shouldn't have that. And it just means that it's neutrally weak. If you take a tomato and you put it in a pitcher of water, if it's a hothouse tomato, it'll probably float. But if it's a good tomato that you raised using Bloomin Miracles, it'll be so dense with nutrients, it'll sink.
Huh. That's a good thing to know too.
And it's a fun thing to do. You walk into the store and just start taking the tomatoes and putting them in there and go, I don't want that one. I'll take that one. Of course, they might give you a little strange.
Take a glass.
That's all right.
What do I get to the
Anyways, let's see. We went a little long, so I'm sorry. The best way to do this, if people are a little shy from coming on the call, but yet we get to record it, send your questions in to Bronie. She sends them to me. We'll talk about the issue, and she'll record it and get it to all of you so that you can get the information, and we'll just play the game that way so that we can have a great call, because if we get interrupted again, we'll hang up and come back on a half hour later and see if we can get a good recording for everyone to enjoy. So, Bronie, do you have any questions?
Oh, well, I don't have any more questions. I already asked you mine. Does anyone else have any? Yvonne, do you have any questions? Grant?
I'd just like to thank you, Richard, for coming on. We really enjoy having someone that started from the very beginning, and the time that you put into to help us, which was absolutely fabulous. Yeah.
Yvonne?
Well, I enjoyed it.
I haven't
the quality of life
that's very interesting.
The quality of life that I have has really been great. So let's see now, 2 days ago, which was my Saturday, my 12-year-old granddaughter brought 5 of her friends, informed her mother that she wanted to have her birthday party at our house, not her mother's house. And she brought her friends, and they stayed overnight, played around in the hot tub, put on makeup, scream, do what 6 girls that are that age do all the time, and that's scream. Went over to the neighbor's pool and all this activities. Now, I can admit Karen and I are still mildly trying to recover, because they were upstairs running around till 3 o'clock in the morning. But they had a great time. But we get to do things like that. And, if I was working a job and was doing the 9-to-5 job, I don't know if we could have our grandkids over there. Karen right now is at the grandson's baseball game, and he'll be playing tonight. And in fact, he'll be playing in about 30 minutes. And then Wednesday night, I'm going to go to his game. And so, we get to spend all this time with them, and they'll have those memories for the rest of their life, how they call her Mimi, even though she's Karen, but she's known all Sasha's friends for 5-8 years. That's how long she's been active in her life. And so they all come right in the house going, Mimi, and you. So, and I'm you. So, yeah.
Dan?
Yes, I think you're doing very well as a grandpa, and you've just turned 31.
Oh, thank you very much. It's actually 71. Anyway.
Yeah, we did hear
31, and I'm a grandpa. That's kind of breaking some laws somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, be well, everybody, and I will see you next month.
You will. And so, as I ask you all nicely here in Bronie's world, to stay safe, stay informed, be empowered, but do not live in fear, my friends. And if you want great information, if you want the very best life you can have, and to live younger, longer, or find a way to do that, just come and ask us. We are all here to give you a helping hand, and Richard's knowledge helps us so much. So come here every Tuesday or send your messages, questions, and we'll do our best to answer. So it comes once a month, but anyway, that's all right. We'd have you every Tuesday if you'd come every Tuesday. But anyway, you do that, guys, and then you too will be powerful, beautiful, brilliant, and most definitely very brave. God bless you all. Catch you again tomorrow here in Bronie's World. Bye for now, and bye, Richard. And bye. Did you know that we had Anzac Day on? That's probably why a lot of people are away today, because we've just had a long weekend here because we had our Anzac Day on Saturday, and then that gives us a public holiday on Monday. So
that's a big day for me, Richard, because I was 24 years in the regular army. Yeah.
Anzac Day is the Australian New Zealand Army Corps.
Thank you.
Sure, it's your Veterans Day.
It's like your veteran.
Thank you guys very much.
Yeah. So anyway, with that, we'll say goodbye. Thank you, Richard. God bless you all.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Whoops.
Oh, what a fun time.
Yeah. Sorry, in the middle of the dog